Hello everyone and good morning. My name is Emmanuel Uisa, a M365 administrator for TechSup, a company for precisely technical support. For this company, I have been asked by my manager of this organization, while I work in this organization on a contract basis, to implement Microsoft 365 for the platform, and also implement endpoint manager policies as well as Teams policies. Okay, so now I'm here in my organization's tenant, and what I'm going to do now is I'll click on show all, then I'll now click on Teams. I'll now click on Teams, and then I'll as well click on Endpoint Manager. So as in Microsoft 365 administrator, my role is just to manage the whole tenant and ensure a seamless experience for our users and employees here at TechSup. Okay, so here is my documentation. You see my documentation. So we have the Intune admin center as it is loading, and then we have our Teams admin center that is also loading as well. We are going to manage our teams, create some new teams as directed by my manager, and we'll create some we'll also implement some Teams policies. Under Intune, we are going to join some under Intune. We're going to implement some. Let me duplicate this. We're going to implement some Intune apps policies, app configuration and app policies. We'll implement endpoint security as well for users. Implement endpoint security for users as well. We're going to do things such as our disk encryption, implementation of a firewall, endpoint privilege management. That's similar to privilege identity management. We will reduce our attack surface as well, and we'll also implement conditional access in our Microsoft Intune. If possible, we'll also be able to set up Microsoft Defender for cloud, not for cloud per se, Microsoft Defender for endpoint. So we have here, we'll click on devices. So our Teams admin center is still loading. So we're going to Intune join some of our devices as well. Hello everyone and good evening. My name is Emmanuel JD, a Microsoft 365 administrator on behalf of Nene Labs. Today I'll be doing a freelance job for a client. I'll be working in his tenant. So I've been allowed to work in his tenant. I click on admin. So I'm to do two tasks in two different admin centers, one in Teams admin center and the other in Microsoft Endpoint admin center in the Endpoint Manager. In the Endpoint Manager, I've been tasked with setting up app configuration profiles and settings, as well as app protection policies and attack surface reduction in endpoint security, as well as other numerous tasks in Microsoft Intune. Along with that, I've also been tasked with creation of team policies and teams in Microsoft Endpoint in the Microsoft Team Center, in the Teams Admin Center. So coming over to the Microsoft 365 Admin Center, I scroll down, click on Show All, then I click on both Endpoint Manager and then the Teams Admin Center. Let's click on the Teams Admin Center as well as Endpoint. So while this is loading, before we commence my task, hello everyone, sorry about that brief intrusion. So let's attempt my task again. Let's reload the Office 365 platform. Okay, so our platform has finished loading. So we are going to perform our task now. We are going to perform our task right now. Our team center is not loading, so let's try to open everything up from the start. Okay. So we click on Show All, and then we scroll down, we go to the Endpoint Manager, we go to the Teams, go to the Endpoint Manager, we go to our Teams Admin Center. In the Admin Center, we also take a look at our SharePoint as well as an Identity Manager. Remember, as I introduce myself, my name is Emmanuel Ojide, a Microsoft 365 administrator of Nene Labs or Digital Consulting. I'm doing this job for my clients I work for. Sorry about that. So let's begin our task. So what I'm to do now is we are in the Endpoint Admin Center. We are going to do some app configuration policies. Let me duplicate this. You can go to apps, click on devices, and especially endpoint security as well, and also manage our users devices and groups devices. So let's click on all services. You're going to install and register some devices in our Intune, in Microsoft Intune, especially for devices that are managed by Intune. So okay, Let's start with our apps first. So we start with our app configuration. So we click on apps. Copilot is open. So we have our overview. So we have our overview for apps that are being managed by Intune. You click on all apps. Now we can decide to add any applications if we need to. We can add apps for any platform, or we can even sort by platform. Let's say Microsoft 365 apps, Windows and later, depending on what we choose. Or Google, manage Google Play app. So let's see if we can add an app for Windows 10 and later. Select add Microsoft 365 apps. So you can either add category productivity, show this a featured app in the company portal, yes. You click on next. For app configuration suite, we have our configuration designer, selected apps, 8 selected, Skype for business as well for our users, installing direct with company, select other office apps, license required. So we have this as well. Yeah, app registration of Microsoft 365 apps, default file format 64-bit. You can go with open XML document command, update channel. Let's select our update channel. So for our update channel in Microsoft Intune, you can see current channel, monthly enterprise, semi-annual, enterprise channel. So let's select a semi-annual enterprise update. Okay. So semi-annual enterprise. So we go for the semi-annual enterprise channel, or we can go for the monthly enterprise channel because of our organization's policies. Then versions to install, latest version to install. You click on the latest, or you can be specific. Let's say latest version. Now use shared computer activation. What this means, you can permit this. Accept the Microsoft software license. Accept the Microsoft software license. We have for users, yes. Install background service for Microsoft Search. Background service for Microsoft Search in Bing. Yes. Languages. You select our languages. Our predominant language is English. So let's say English USA. Okay. Then click on next.
Now for our assignments, let me assign this to group, so you can add all users and add all devices. For our assignment, let's assign this to the production team. The product team, and available for enroll devices. We add our group. Developers. We add our group again. And then labs. Product team. Sorry, let me cancel this. I have to remove this. On install no group assignment. Nobody can uninstall the M365 apps. No required assignment on the same deployment. So you click on next. So let's review all that we have done. No assignments for our groups, and then we click on create. Now policy is being created. So our app creation has been created. Okay. So this, please take note that the clients or the client, this is a startup. This is the client startup for the growth of his company. This is a startup company, a startup client. So we go to all apps again. We go back to our apps. We can also sort this by platform as well, but we won't be doing that. Let's see for Windows. I already installed Microsoft 365 apps for Windows. If you go back, let's see for Mac OS. You can also install for Mac OS as well. So 365 apps for Mac OS. You can run through the same procedures just as we did for Windows. Now we can assign a group. This time we'll assign to all users because we have an upcoming shipment of Macs for users. Say all users, everybody included, filter mode none, and all devices as well, available for enroll devices. You can add a group for devices are enrolled in Intune. You see, you click on next. Require available for enrolled devices. Review and create all that we have done. And click on create. And we have installed our apps for Endpoint Manager. So next thing that we need to do, we're also going to create our app protection policies and app configuration policies. Okay, so let us begin. Let's select a new app protection policy for our Microsoft Intune Manager. We have a fresh issue. Let's refresh. Hello everyone, sorry for that intrusion. What we'll be doing actually, we'll be reattempting what we wanted to do previously. So far for the tech startup of TechSup, we have installed Microsoft 365 apps for macOS and for Windows as well, so that when our users are onboarded, these applications will be installed onto their PCs via the Intune company portal app that you can get from the Microsoft Store. So we have the Windows, iOS, iPadOS, and the macOS. You can also configure for Android. So what we will do next is app protection policies. We'll be configuring app protection policies and app configuration policies for organizations. For our organization on behalf of my client. So we have our Windows. This is our Windows. So let's go over to app protection policies and see. So we simply go here and click on create policy. Apart from app protection policies and app configuration policies, we'll also be touching on devices, managing of our devices. We'll also be managing our devices, our OS. We set up configurations, compliance, so as conditional access policies for our devices, managing of Windows updates, Apple updates, and others, and also configuration of our endpoint security. Let me duplicate this. Also configuration of our endpoint security as well as for our users. So now back to our applications on endpoints. Now let's configure our app protection policies as we agreed to do. We're going to configure our app protection policies. So what you do here is click on create policy. Click on create policy. So let's click on create policy. Click on create policy. So we select what does this app protection policy cover. Will it be Windows information protection, Windows, Android, or iOS? So almost of our devices in this startup are Windows. So let's select for Windows. We can also select for Android and iOS, which we will do later. So Windows. Now for the basics, we'll call this the digital tech client Tech client app protection policy. This app protection policy is by admin Emmanuel solely for endpoint protection and to boost endpoint security. In this tenant and for users as well. So this is for our Windows devices, and this is the name of our policy. So I click on next. Now for the apps we select will be our, let's see, for the apps, so search by app ID, selected apps, let me see, PowerPoint. Is this onboarded? Not really. So let's say for Microsoft Edge, we select this, select on done, click next. So this includes the data loss prevention, DLP controls, determine how users interact with data in the apps. Okay, I have configured data loss prevention policies for this tenant. So these settings determine how users interact with data in the apps. So data received from all sources, yes, send all organization data to, what's this? Okay, allow copy, cut and paste for any destination and any source. No destination and any source actually, so that we will ensure complete data protection of within our tenant. Now functionality, printing of data cannot be printed, organization data will not be printed, we will not allow that. Health checks. Now offline grace period, if the grace period is up to, let's say, 180 days, access will be blocked. We block access. And then if the offline grace period 90 days, hang on a sec, offline grace period of this can be minutes. let's say 5,000 minutes. Then we can also add another, so, minimum app version. If the minimum app version is say 40, okay, the minimum app version can be version 1.5. if the app version is less than that, you wipe the data. No, we cannot wipe the data. Block access, no, rather we warn. And then if an account is disabled account, wipe data. Now for our device settings, if the maximum allowed device threat, so maximum allowed device threat level, if it is high, you block access. If it is the minimum OS version, let's say version 2.0, version 1.7, sorry, 1.7, version 1.7, we warn. Okay, so we click on next. Please do know we are configuring our applications as well. Now to these users that we configure our apps now, what you need to do is assign a group. No group selected, included groups. So let's include our groups. And other groups. So for these groups, we'll add the HR team as well as employees. Then we select excluded groups will be the DevOps team. DevOps team. Click on next. Now it's time for us to review and create. Let's review and create. So in the process of reviewing and creating, let's click on create. Now we have created our app protection policy. Now our app protection policy is successfully created. Now we may proceed. We can also as well do for the iOS or Android. Okay, let's create a protection policy for our Android devices. So we call this TechSup Nene. TechSup app protection policy. To boost endpoint security. To boost endpoint security from for a company. So to boost endpoint security for the company, Android users, this policy is by administrator. Emmanuel. Click on next. So for apps, we can select no public apps selected. Let's see if we have any public applications here. So for public apps, yes, we can select our public apps. Let's say Microsoft Word. Okay. Loom apps for Microsoft Intune. And then Protect Go. Power Automate and Power Apps. Viva Engage. That is also important. Unique Moments and Zoom for Intune as well. So we select for these apps. Publics are selected. We don't have any custom apps, so we click next. So backup organization data to Android backup services, we block this. Send organization data to other apps. None. Only policy managed apps. Select apps to exempt. Zoom. Save various copies of organization data. No. Allow users to save copies to selected devices. Allow users to save copies to selected devices. Oh, allow users to save copies to selected services. Yeah, OneDrive for business, Dropbox, just these two is fine. Okay. Transfer telecommunication data to none. We do not allow that. Or just policy manage apps. Policy managers. Say 5 times. Sorry about that. Screen capture and Google Assistant. Screen capture and Google Assistant. This will block this. No screenshots will be allowed in the tech startup. Accrued keywords not required. Encrypt organization data. Yes. Functionality. Printing of organization data block. Sync manage data with native apps or add-ins. Let's allow that. Restrict web transfer with other apps. Restrict web content transfer with other apps. And unmanaged browser, or just Microsoft Edge. Let's say just Microsoft Edge. Organization data notifications. Blocked. Start Microsoft Tunnel connection on app launch. We can enable this as well. Let's click on next. So we are now on access requirements. What are the pause? For now, pin access not required, or you can say required. Passcode, numeric. Simple pin, no simple pins. Minimum pin length should be 8 for maximum security in our organization for this client.
Hello everyone, and sorry about that intrusion. So we continue from where we stopped, configuring Android app protection policies for this client. So pin for access required. Passcode, let's say we require a numeric passcode. Simple pin blocked. Select minimum pin length, let's say we require up to 8 pins for more added security on the client's tenant for its end users. Biometrics, instead of pin for access, okay, this is okay. For added security, you can use biometrics. Override biometrics with pin after timeout required. Yes. Then timeout minutes of activity, 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Okay, seconds and seconds. Okay, 360 seconds. 360 seconds. Class 3 biometrics is what can be required. It can be overridden. Pin reset after days. Yes, pin resets. We require a pin reset after 60 days for more added security. Select number of pin values to maintain. Just minimum of 2. Then app pin when device pin is set, also required. Work or school account credentials for access, this is also required for our organization. We check the access requirement after minutes of inactivity. 30 minutes, that's just fine. Then click on next. Conditional launch, max pin 5 attempts, reset pin depending on what's required, what is said. This is okay like this for our organization or for the client's organization. Then also non-working time, or let's say for a disabled account, block access for endpoint. Then for non-working time, we also warn, or no, actually we block access for other security. We don't want clients accessing organizations data on off hours. Okay, so click on next. Assignments, who do we assign this to? We assign this to the DevOps team. We can exclude, or we won't be excluding. Let's not exclude, we only include, and that's the DevOps protection team. DevOps team, as well as the production team. Click on next, then review and create. For this is the app that it to be applied to, and then we click on create. So our app policy is being created now. We'll also go on to our app configuration policy as well. So let's go over to our app configuration policy. So under app config policy for our client as well, we can do this for managed devices or apps. We'll do for both. Now for managed devices, we can say text up upgrade device policy, device config policy. Say this policy is by admin Emmanuel, that's me. Okay. Device enrollment type, the platform, let's say for the iOS, selected app, any selected app, Henry, say Henry, sorry. Add some apps. Let's change this, sorry. Profile type, let's go for Android instead. Only fully managed, dedicated and corporate owned work profile in the organization. Duty. Let's try to add this app. Say workflow. Okay, actually let's come back to this. Sorry about that. We'll configure for the devices later. Let's enroll for this thing. This is due to the technical issues. Text up app configuration policy. This policy is by admin Emmanuel. Admin Emmanuel. Core Microsoft apps, all Microsoft apps. So we select our apps catalog, our settings catalog. We'll be continuing our documentation, my documentation. Okay guys, so settings catalog, we'll add our settings catalog and select Microsoft Edge for Microsoft Edge. And select these settings. Default search provider.
Yeah, allow notifications, allow JavaScript, won't allow pop-ups. You select all these settings. Select all these settings. Now let's remove this. Let's do let's repeat what we just did again. Let's add settings and select for just Microsoft Edge, and under Microsoft Edge, default search provider, enable the default search provider. You can also okay. Enabled. You configure this as well, then click on next for Microsoft Edge for our users. Next. Oh sorry, let me go back. Nope, no need for this. The site is unresponsive. Then we configure our assignments. We can also assign this to the employees. That's all employees. Then we have a group where we have all employees in the company for this client. So wait for this while it loads. Wait for this while it loads. Signify for the employees as well as the HR team and select. Then click on next, and then review and create our policy for app configuration. And our app policy has just finished deploying. Now what we need to do next is we have figured out to configure our devices. We've done our devices setups. I've done our apps. Now let's go over to endpoint security and manage our devices.
Okay, for endpoint security, we can do privilege management as well as conditional access and device compliance. So let's go through them one by one for our clients. Remember my name is Emmanuel Olisa, a Intune administrator for a freelance role, and yeah, I'll be performing these tasks as directed by my client. Okay, so for antivirus, endpoint security antivirus, the devices, this will deploy a reflect very soon. Create a policy. So let's create a policy for our Windows. Defender update controls, Microsoft Defender antivirus, Windows Defender update for Windows, Microsoft Defender antivirus. Let's create a profile for this our users for the devices. Click on create, and now policy is being created. So let's say this is the endpoint security, endpoint defender security for TechSup. Policy by admin Emmanuel. Click on next. Now for our configuration, we can allow archive scanning, scan our devices, archive, allow behavior monitoring, of course, real-time behavior monitoring for devices, cloud protection as well, allowed email scanning as well, allowed email scanning. We pretty much allow everything, allow full scan drive. Let's turn off scanning on removable device, or rather let's allow this as well for premium security, full-time security. Deprecated, allow intrusion prevention system, allowed. Basically we allow everything. Archive max size, let's say archive max size of 5,000. Checking for signatures, enabled. Cloud block level, zero tolerance, yes, for full security. Assuming everything is unsafe in our organization, zero tolerance is the best and is highly recommended. Okay, then I will enable network protection. Let's see that audit mode, and then it can be blocked later by the admin. Then to any exclusions, no exclusions. real-time scan, monitor all files. No, actually, let's monitor incoming files coming into the organization. Schedule scan time. It's okay. So for high security threats, quarantine, move files to quarantine. Move files to quarantine. Remediation action for security tests. Remove files from the system. Moderate threats. So click on next. For our scopes, let's leave it at the default. Assignments. This is for the HR. Then we click on save. Now it's creating our policy, and we have tweaked our endpoint security antivirus. Tweaked our endpoint security antivirus. Okay, so disk encryption as well in endpoint security. You tweak this as well. That platform, let's say for Mac OS. So Mac OS users endpoint security in TechSup. Excuse me. Hello everyone, so I apologize for the rain. I apologize for the rain and the background noise. Let's continue from where we stopped. So this is a security policy. This is a security policy by Amin Emmanuel. Let's click on next. So for our description or encryption, you enable the fire vault. Okay, you can enable the fire vault.
It says at default all users exclude groups. For key type 1 items. Review and create all our settings and then click on create. Due to an error. What error would that be? Let's troubleshoot this. Okay, I think that's done. So this encryption of our file vault has been enabled and created, and it has been assigned. Apologize for the issues. So that's that for our this description encryption. Then for our firewall, you can implement our firewall as well for endpoint security. So you click on create policy. Click on create policy, Windows, Mac OS. Let's go for Windows. And then Windows firewall. There's a firewall. We're creating our Windows firewall. We're going to enable Windows firewall for this organization, for our policies. So let's name our policy. Call this the endpoint security firewall for endpoint devices. This policy is by admin Emmanuel. Lisa. Let's click next. So wait for our configuration to proceed. Certificate revocation, this verification. Let's see what's this. So far so good. We have done disk encryption, created our policy for disk encryption. We have created a new firewall as well, as you can see. Endpoint security firewall for endpoint devices. our DevOps team and the resource for endpoint security firewall. Then we'll do an attack surface reduction, and then we'll go on to conditional access. So for attack surface reduction, we're gonna do this for our link theme, for our Windows. Set the profile, device control, exploit protection. So for our profile, exploit protection. Okay, so our profile is exploit protection. We'll also do for Edge, Microsoft Edge Legacy, and the other. So this is an attack surface protection policy for exploit and malware. Endpoint policy by Emmanuel. We need to configure this. So hello everyone, we'll continue from where we stopped. So exploit configuration policy, we click on next, default scope, assign this to our group for attack surface reduction, save for the vendors, the users, and then we click on save. Then also in endpoint, we are permitted to configure devices for our users, their on-premise systems as well. So that's creating new users on the Microsoft Intune Admin Center. You can also configure for groups as well and deliver tenant administration as well. So we can also perform access reviews as well. Let's go over back to users. You can inspect our audit logs. And see the audit logs.
let's check the sign-in logs. Let's look at the last 1 month and apply. So you can see our work in the past 1 hour. As we look carefully, excuse me, sorry about that. So we can look at our work in the past 1 month. Let's check our tenant administration for our clients. Let's duplicate this as well. You can also perform access reviews as well in Endpoint Manager. Let's go ahead and do that. This is similar to Microsoft Entra ID. So let us do this for the client. So you click on new access review. You click on new access review. Then for this you can select the teams that you want this access review to apply to. Now this will be for our demo team, for our demonstration team. All users, we want this to apply to all users, not guest users. All users. You click next on the reviews. You have determined the multi-stage review. This is if need be, but no need for a multi-stage review. Let's select our reviewers. Our reviewers will be managers of users. Fallback reviewers, fallback reviewers will be Mr. Ademola, Lukman, and Aisha. You can also optimize for we can also optimize for tenant admin as well. Let's inspect for Microsoft Entra privilege identity management. You see some of our live privilege identity management rules. We see all the privilege identity management rules. But most of this will be grayed out. You can only manage this from the identity center, that is Microsoft Entra Admin Center. That's all for Intune. Oh, sorry. We were also setting up a. Sorry for that. We are setting up an access review. So let's just start afresh. Let's select our teams, select the group.
let's refresh this. Let's see my rows are rows. I'll choose myself. I'll choose myself. Choosing myself. And that's all for Microsoft Intune.